Welcome, everyone. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Hammond?
Here.
Vice President Clements? Here. Trustee Daly? Here. Trustee Parr? Here. Trustee Schwartz? Here.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening, and to all those folks who weathered literally the storm this evening. The good news is that the polls never had to shut down, and we continued having voting. People continued to come, the brave souls that they were, so it worked out, and now we're back to full power, so we're in good shape. So we'll be talking about the results when they come in later on this evening. Around 9, I'm going to head up and close the polls, and then we'll reconvene. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Bowers.
So today we have a number of things to kind of remind you of, and then just some conversations that we need to have. But last week we sent out a letter about the date changes for both the May and the June school calendar. The 2-hour delay has been canceled for May, and we are adding an additional day of school to our calendar, which is Friday, June 22nd. And we will have half days or almost full half days, very limited early dismissals on the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of that week. So we will be dismissing the middle school at 1:15. We'll be dismissing the elementary school at 1:55 to 2 o'clock. And so please look at the calendar, the updated calendar, to see the changes. We also have it posted on the website. So if you threw it away or you don't have it, you can always check on the website for our additional days. A couple other dates that you should think about: the Haldane School District will be closed on Monday, May the 28th, in observance of Memorial Day. The next Board of Education meeting will occur on Tuesday, June the 5th at 7 o'clock in this room, the band room. And we have a number of meetings coming up. We have a Building and Grounds meeting that's coming up Wednesday, June 6th at 3:15. If anybody's interested in a conversation about where we are as far as the discussion for a potential bond referendum and the most recent study that was done on the building and the needs of the building. We will be discussing that then. And then we have a safety committee meeting tomorrow, and it will be held at 3:15 in the middle school, high school library if anybody has an interest in coming. And yeah, tomorrow is the 16th of May, so at 3:15 in the high school, middle school library. This meeting, the safety meeting, is being held because there was a couple of letters that went out, one to our neighbors saying that we were looking at a potential shift in traffic flow for a pilot period during the month of June to see if we should be looking at making changes due to safety concerns that were brought up by the local fire department and police officers. And so we were talking about that. We gave the neighbors a heads up that there may be this pilot. Also sent the letter that we had planned to send to all the other families in the Haldane School District. But we're holding on to those letters until we have kind of a clear consensus from everybody who's involved in the meeting. So tomorrow we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the need or the reason why we even considered the pilot, and we'll be talking about the things that some of the neighbors would like us to hear, and some of the reasons that we've decided to have the potential pilot to begin with. So if anybody does have an interest, we welcome you. And I know that there have been a lot of questions from the board, and I don't know if you have any questions about or any suggestions or thoughts before the meeting tomorrow that I can bring in, but I'd be happy to hear them. So.
Do we know, so I was at a couple of safety committee meetings where first responders spoke really quite articulately and emphatically about the need to change the traffic pattern immediately, was the sense that I got. Do we know, and they bring a really important expertise and perspective, do we know if and how many of those folks will be able to attend the meeting on Wednesday?
Well, we know that the police officers that were part of the conversation, they will be there. We are still waiting to find out if the head of the fire department will be there. There's a question mark.
Right.
He has been invited.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at, we're hoping to have most of the people that were in the conversation, not only during the safety meetings was that shared, but then we had a meeting afterwards. And the second safety meeting that we had, we actually, when it was being discussed, they asked us to have a meeting, which we did. And we sent around a pad, and anybody who had an interest in it signed up. Those were the people that were invited to the meeting that we had within the last couple of weeks. And we really sat down and looked at all of their suggestions and what the concerns were and what the possibilities were, and we kind of reached a consensus about the most appropriate place for the pilot. And that's what generated the letter that went to the neighbors. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I did. It sounds like some of the folks will be in. I think that's really, I think that's really important, because my sense from my own personal take on that meeting was sort of acknowledging that it could be a complicated thing to change the traffic patterns, that it impacts many people's lives, parents and kids and neighbors, and I just want to make sure that the folks that spoke, the first responders who spoke so emphatically about the great need for this issue to be addressed immediately, are there to articulate that, to make clear that this is not something that the district that thought would be like, wow, let's do this thing that has the potential to be disruptive, right? Like, this was not a decision that was made lightly or without the input of people whom we as a district trust to have the expertise to make these kinds of recommendations.
And it was all as a result of these emergency responders responding to two incidences
Right.
on the campus, and
Right.
that's why
Right.
these conversations apparently evolved.
Right.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that, these conversations about the entry and exit have been going on, for over a decade, about the best way to get in and out of the campus and the safest way. And so that some people are say that, gosh, we've been talking about this forever. I'm so glad we're at least trying something. But there are other people who are new to the community who may not know that history. They may not know that it was talked about when the new high school was getting built, and it was put on the back burner for cost reasons. Right. So, that I think that history will be important to share with the community. And I think that the incidents of recent that have really pushed the envelope to get the first responders, to get us to get pushed, I think those really need to be shared with the community as well. I think anybody who hears that, the story of the fire alarm being pulled right at elementary school dismissal is alarmed, is scared, is concerned, sees that we need to figure out the best way to do things. Right. But they need to know that. They need to know that it's not some sort of arbitrary, hey, let's try this thing.
That was explained. Yeah. And the letter that went out, because we had a situation in the morning, we had one of our batteries in the server room that melted down at the middle school drop-off in the morning, and they had difficulty getting onto campus at that point, and then we had a situation at dismissal, and both of those occurred this year. And Steve Smith, who is the chief of the fire department, really was concerned because he felt he was not able to respond to us in a timely manner.
Right.
And so, if it's a real emergency, and it could be seconds or minutes that could make all the difference in something. So, this was something that they came to us with the concerns. The experts are telling us that we need to react. And as a school district, there's no question. We have to consider what's being asked of us. And this is not something that we're arbitrarily just changing, as was said, but this is something that we're looking at as a pilot. It is not a definitive anything. And this is the best option. And right from the beginning, we said, if this is the option, let's take a look at it. If it's not, then we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to look for Plan B. And so, we are able to, the letter was explaining that we'll be looking at the Tuesday after Memorial Day to begin the pilot, and then it will be going through the next couple of weeks.
And the other, brainstorming that's happened, I think that would also be good to share with the community, to know that this isn't the only option that the school district and that the first responders have considered, right? We've talked about access roads, we've talked about, can we change something so that the fire department could get in through Cedar Street and have enough room to get down to the buildings. So you've talked all of these things through, and I think that some of those options are still a little bit on the table. They're not, I don't know if any of them have been ruled out. I don't know, maybe they have. But I think that it would also be helpful to share the district's process with the first responders. Like, okay, we're looking at this, we've looked at that. This is why this could work, this is why this couldn't work, and just invite people into the conversation.
Right. And which was done when we had the meeting, but it wasn't done
people
in a
don't
public
go to
session.
those
Right, and I understand that. And so that's why we're having another one tomorrow.
Right.
And people who have an interest and will be there, and the people that came to us and spoke emphatically, as was explained,
Yeah.
they'll be there too.
Good.
At least most of them will be there. And I can tell you that in the 4 years that I've been here, it was very clear that that was a problem when I walked in. I think that the traffic flow and the parking are really problematic for the district. And one of the reasons why the traffic flow problem, especially at dismissal, is as difficult as it is because we don't have parking. And so it kind of is a catch-22 that just keeps going around. And, we have to look to, the priority is to make sure that the students on campus are safe. And so however that works and whatever we need to do, that's the priority.
And there was some question about the, who's in charge of changing traffic flow if it affects the village streets.
Right.
And that there would be a call to the village to assist with things like crossing guards, or maybe crossing guards in different locations, or maybe more crossing guards or not, or the village and the school would have to work together to ensure the safety of the students and the cars and everybody on the village streets. So has that information been gathered? Like, does the school district have the right to change the traffic pattern? Do we know that legally? I know that there was just some question about that.
We have the right to change it on campus.
Right.
And then what happens beyond that is really the village. And the question really is if the district makes a choice to change the traffic patterns on campus, how does the village need to react? And it depends on who you speak to, very honestly. And in some cases, I've been told the village needs to react if we are going to change the traffic patterns. And it's incumbent upon them to make whatever changes is needed if this is the direction the school goes. But we want to work in concert, and I have to say that there was some concerns that they were not brought into it, but their head police officer was part of the conversations right from the beginning. And he was involved in all the discussions, and it was all part of he was part of many police officers. We've also had the captain of the sheriff's department who came in and joined me for a meeting last week. And so the sheriff's department is also now, we had people that called the sheriff's department, and they came in to look, and their response is, this is the right thing for us to do. So I think it's important for people not only to hear the district's perspective, but law enforcement. You know, these are people, we're the ones, we're reacting to the suggestions that are being made to us by experts. We have no expertise in this area. And that's why we sat down and we had the conversation. So the Sheriff's Department, Cold Spring Police, the Fire Department, these are our first responders and the people that we entrust to our safety, and they're telling us that we have to do something different, and and we stood and took notice.
I mean, and this is one of those situations where, like, there are no great options, right? Like, if there was a great solution to this, we would have figured it out a while ago. And I really hope that people can come to the table with this, recognizing it's a challenging situation. There's not, right now, there doesn't appear to be an ideal solution. And rather than immediately take a hostile tone about how this or that, which has happened so far, not in public, but we've seen it, to recognize that it's a challenging situation and that as community members, what we need to do is really put our best selves forward to come and talk about this in a rational, collegial, community-minded way, and not to immediately become, I don't know if defensive is the right word or hostile aggressive is the right word, but to immediately, I mean, it might be, but to realize like the district does not set out to like make people's lives miserable, right? The district sets out to like keep children safe. That's what we want to do. That's our number one priority. And if it's interpreted, if we make a misstep or it's interpreted that we maybe made a misstep, then give us the benefit of the doubt that we're actually really doing our best here, and let's come together and work about it. Why Cold Springs is supposed to be so great, right? We're such a great community, right? Let's demonstrate that greatness in these difficult times. Let's do that.
Well said.
This was Steve Smith. He will be there tomorrow.
Oh, good. Okay. So on the flip side of that, I also want people to realize that if we were told that there was a safety issue and we didn't react and we didn't follow up and we didn't do what we needed to do to ensure the safety of our kids, I think that would make the public more angry or more frustrated. Absolutely. Because we weren't doing our due diligence.
Absolutely.
So, I think that there are really two sides to this story, and we really need to look at what is in the best interest of the kids and the school, and what's our best response at this moment.
And one thing, the conversations are important, and the pilot, it's relatively limited. We have to try out some of these alternatives, and everybody has to realize that when you're doing something new like this, we need to heighten awareness. Parents need to be aware of possible inconveniences. Kids, we need to keep an excellent eye on our children as these new patterns. We really all need to up our game, and I think it's something that everybody wants to do.
Right.
But we will need the support of the village, and that's important. And
Yes,
I think
we will.
tomorrow, after that meeting, we'll be able to determine where that lies.
I would think I can only imagine that the village wants the best for our kids. I can't imagine that's not the case.
One of the things that was very clear in all of the conversations that we had is that the suggestion is that we have a separate traffic flow for parents that are dropping off and picking up, and on the other side, the buses and the staff. And so mixing the parents and the busing and the crossover of kids walking in different places on campus is a real problem. And so what they're suggesting is a delineated drop-off and pick-up pattern for both groups. And so if there's anybody that has any other suggestions, we're open to hear anything.
Absolutely.
And we would be happy to come up with something that made everybody happy. But we need to come up with something, because just to turn a blind eye is not the way to do it at this point.
And I think that, I was previously always focusing on the emergency needs of needing to get like emergency vehicles to the school quickly. And Matt Shelter has really pointed out the other side of it as well, or the additional concern about safety with cars that we don't know who these people are, just idling or parking or placing themselves in very vulnerable places right at that cul-de-sac, right at that circle. And that wasn't something that I had even thought of. But that was, I felt like, a very powerful point in terms of as we look at the security of our campus.
And I think a lot of those different points were brought up at those safety meetings, in addition to the fact that we have an officer directing traffic when they should be up here at drop-off times. So there was a couple of different issues and matters, and I'm not quite sure everybody understood all of the issues, but I'm hoping that tomorrow some of these things are hashed out.
And as we all are, and we'd like to find a solution. And again, this is what we're looking at as a pilot. We're not looking at making a sweeping change. We're looking at gathering data and trying to figure out what's in the best interest of our students.
And I think we just need to work together, and I think Peggy said it best, is that really the focus is the best interest and safety of our students, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion.
Absolutely. It's totally doable.
Right on.
Okay.
All right. And then just a reminder that there's a Board of Education workshop meeting on June the 19th at 7 o'clock. And it will recognize the retirees for this year. We'll also be talking to Mr. Lucisano about the algebra curriculum and the way in which we taught the AP Trig class this year, which is not culminating in a Regents exam unless the children choose to challenge it and would like to take it, because we've kind of focused on things other than the Regents curriculum. We will also have Ms. Daniel Pack McCarthy, who will review her new role as the Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Coordinator for the town of Phillipstown. She's been a very active member of the Communities That Care Coalition, and she is now moving into this role, so we would love for you to come and hear what she has to say about substance abuse and the work of the Phillipstown town groups to stem that tide. So that's it.
Okay, moving on to information reports. Mr. Wallach.
Good evening, everybody. Glad the power came back on so we can at least be in light as we chat with each other. You have my written report. I'm going to gush a little bit about Arts Alive that happened this past Friday. Most of you have probably had children that have been through 5th grade here and have experienced it. This was my first time experiencing it, and I just want to share with all of you and anyone who might be watching what a wonderful program it was. In the morning, the 5th graders went to workshops. They had their choice of many workshops, and each child was assigned to 3 different workshops. They're each 15 minutes long, with artists that were basically from our community. Very talented, special artists who were able to come in and run these programs for our kids. They also had the help of some middle school students who were assisting them. The kids had a great time. I think probably my favorite was seeing some of the children do tap dancing, especially there were some boys that didn't really want to be in tap dancing, but that's how it worked out with the lottery for workshops, and they had a great time. Everyone else who was in the other workshops, whether it was ceramics, whether it was songwriting, whether it was story writing, whether it was painting, everyone had a great time. In the afternoon, our students were treated to performances in our auditorium. They were varied performances because some of them were high school students performing. We had one elementary student performing as a duet with a secondary sibling. We had some community members who are artists perform, and we even had a faculty member perform. So it was a wonderful day for all our students. It's something special that we do here that probably most schools don't do. I'm already looking forward to it next year, so anyone who has a child who might be in 5th grade in a few years will probably really enjoy that when it comes around for those kids. But it was just a great day. So it was just a few days ago, so I'm gushing a lot about it, but that's what I wanted to share tonight. So thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Silky. Oh, doctor, yes.
I now follow
Thank
her on
you.
Twitter. She has one of the best education Twitter feeds.
Thank you. I
usually-
really appreciate that
Yeah,
because I've been
very-
working on building up
it's really
my
good.
professional learning community through Twitter.
Yeah,
I think it's really a
somehow
great
when
way.
I found out you defended, I found out that you also had a Twitter feed, and so I followed you. So
You
congratulations.
need to change your letterhead.
I know. I have to change it.
All right.
We didn't hear what your thesis was.
So I studied the characteristics that high school teachers found most important to building positive teacher-student relationships. So it's a topic that's been studied a lot from the student perspective, but in terms of teacher prep programs and training teachers to build those relationships, their teachers are not well studied. So, to start to build a kind of library of characteristics that teachers find work for them when they're trying to make those connections. So it was interesting. I hope to present a little bit more about it next year. The PTA invited me to present a little bit more about what I found. So it's in the works.
Great.
So I wanted to tell you about Frost Valley. So much like David's experience with Arts Alive for the first time, I experienced Frost Valley for the first time. And I really didn't believe that there was no internet until we were actually there. I was like, oh my goodness, we are in the wilderness. I'm in the wilderness. And our kid, and I was thinking, oh my God, if I'm finding this very difficult to adapt to, our 8th graders must be finding, our digital natives that have always been with technology, they must be having a really rough time. But I have to tell you that they seem to drop the devices right away and move right into each other and into the activities. They did team building, they did zip lining, they did a 4-hour hike that seemed to be mainly uphill. They did, we saw beavers building their dams. There was so much science in this trip, so much team building, communication, collaboration, the need to practice their critical thinking, to be creative. The trip covered everything that we could hope for in a rich curriculum for our 8th grade students. So much so that I'm already speaking with Leah Horn about maybe doing a 1-day trip for the 6th and 7th graders to Sharp Reservation that would be like a similar mini team building outdoor experience, and that would build up to the larger Frost Valley trip. So that'll be in talks. I also just wanted to add that with the changes at the end of the year, the 8th grade moving up ceremony is going to be at 4 o'clock, not at 12. And the dinner dance will be at 6:30 following it that night. And then today, of course, our middle school concert. You wouldn't think that our middle school concert would have to be canceled due to weather on May 15th. But due to the fact that the power was knocked out, we didn't have our middle school concert. And already right away, Mrs. Sniffen texted me and she jumped right in to offer up that we combine with the high school for next Wednesday. So I'll be talking with her and I'll be putting out soon when the makeup for the middle school concert will be. So thank you.
And I have to tell you that Mrs. Sniffen is stuck at JFK right now, so she won't, and it's very crowded and crazy traffic down there, so I hope she gets back sometime reasonably early tonight.
I understand that, Mr. Solemn, you'll be presenting Ms. Sniffin's report? You might as well do yours as well, and then we'll call Dr. Show.
Thank you. Save me 7 steps. Good evening, everyone. So I'll start with just one brief highlight that Mrs. Sniffen wanted to mention. I'm actually going to read the first paragraph of a letter that one of our high school teachers got from the Putnam County Historian and the Putnam County Archives Society. Dear Mrs. Cordero and the Haldane High School History Club, I am pleased to inform you that you and your students of the Haldane High School History Club have been chosen to be honored with the Exemplary Public History in Schools Award at the 2018 Putnam County Day Ceremony. Awards on this day are given in recognition of exemplary work and dedication to recording and preserving the history of Putnam County. Through your continued dedication to local history, we have chosen to honor you and your students for all the work you've done and will undoubtedly continue to do in the coming years. Congratulations. So, great achievement for the History Club and Ms. Cordero. Just wanted to congratulate them on behalf of Mrs. Sniffen. And switching gears to my report.
Can I ask one quick question about that? I'm sorry.
Sure, I'll try to answer it.
So if you know, maybe Dr. Bowers, but my memory is the history club. It was started while Brian was still here, but like it's a relatively recent club, and like many of our clubs, it was a club that was motivated by student interest. So this is another, we've talked at budget meetings and every year when we do talk about the budget, we do bring up the new student clubs. I remember being very impressed by what I met were the young men who had started that club at a board student meeting. But I just want to highlight like how nice that is, right? That the students were really motivated. They got teacher support, the board supporting the district supporting them, and now they won this nice award.
And just switching gears to the world of athletics. Last week, I had the privilege to go to Putnam Valley for our track and field league championship meet. Our kids performed extremely well. I just want to congratulate our girls track team. We were the league champions for the first time in a few years. The girls were outstanding, and we had several girls come in first in their events. So I just want to highlight them real quickly. Abby Stoll came in first in the 100 and hurdles. She also came in first in the shot put, the javelin, and the long jump. So Abby had an exceptional league meet. Just want to congratulate her. We also had Ashley Haynes come in first in the 400 meter, and Heather Winnie come in the 400 hurdle. So just an overall strong performance by most of our girls and the entire team. So once again, just want to congratulate them. And then we also had two boys. The boys did not win the league championship, but we had two boys coming first in their events. We had Nick Farrell coming first in the 1600 meter and Adam Salhavi in the 800 meter. So just a really strong performance, well-run track meet. Great job to the track team. So that's it. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Chris, I was at the track meet, and just Putnam Valley. First of all, they were very gracious. They let us sit back the last half hour. Like after the meet, they held a senior presentation, so they let us use their facility. And during the javelin throw, all the teams were there, and they were high-fiving. Putnam Valley was high-fiving our kids were high-fiving Putnam Valley. So it was really, they got along really well, both teams.
If you've never been to a track invite or a meet, it's one of the few sports where you really see sportsmanship at its finest. I mean, they're always supporting each other's. Different schools have different relationships. Kids that compete against each other in similar events form bonds, and it's really a positive experience. And I think, like I said, the kids performed well, but overall it was just a really good day.
It's about, they talk more about PRs, personal records, than just winning. Like it's about just do your best. Yeah. And everyone's happy if this is the fastest I ever ran, or this is the furthest I ever threw it. Not about like, oh, I didn't win first place. So yeah, it's very very collegial. All the teams.
I would agree.
Did you want to give a plug for the Hall of Fame?
Sure. So we actually had another Hall of Fame meeting today. We are accepting nominations for candidates to be inducted into the 2018 class. If you're not sure where to find the nomination forms, please go to the district website under athletics. I know with the new website it's a little confusing sometimes. If you can't find the link, just email me or call me personally. But we are looking to have the second induction class announced in the next few months, hopefully. And we are going to be having that on September 29th, which is homecoming weekend next year. Homecoming's a little earlier than usual just because of kind of what events we have going on. So the 28th and 29th will be homecoming in September. So thank you.
Don't go yet. We have so many questions for you.
All right. I knew it was going to happen. I was like, I had a good day.
You can't get out of here. In your report, you mentioned the CPR and AED requirements for graduation.
Okay.
And I didn't know what that meant. So do all of our seniors have to have CPR in order to graduate?
So I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if it's the second or third year, but New York State basically set a requirement where seniors, before they graduate, they don't have to be CPR certified, but they have to learn pretty much the basics. So Deputy Shelters has come into some of the PE classes with Mr. Vergidamo and just help demonstrate, how to place your hands, how to do compressions, how many compressions. So you're not getting the CPR certification, but you're meeting the graduation requirement. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I think
Okay.
that's fantastic. That's such like a great life skill.
Yeah, I think the
kids to
state.
have.
Yeah, I think the state is starting to recognize the importance of that. I just had an athletic directors meeting. The state's also very close to mandating athletic trainers in schools. So it's just you can't have too much safety, and you have to make sure that our kids know what to do, our coaches know what to do, our adults know what to do. And I think we're getting close to that point where everyone kind of has a good understanding of how to react in an emergency.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
Yep. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Dr. Shoa.
Evening, everybody. A couple of quick things. CSE meetings are wrapping up. I won't say they're almost done, but hopefully by the end of the month, they'll be more or less finished. Now, even starting our CPSE, Committee on Preschool Special Education, for our little incoming kindergartners. It's been, I think, a pretty great year in terms of just coordinating Committee on Special Ed meetings. For those of us in the room who are familiar with how difficult it can be to coordinate a meeting and to establish a continuum and make sure all the service providers are there and that everyone's informed about the student's progress. It takes a large team of people, even for just one student. So for the teachers, for related services, for the building leaders, for Kim Patinella, who is walking magic wand, to put all that together and really finish it as close to on time as possible, even given the number of snow days we had, is pretty miraculous. So I'm very pleased with that, and the continuum looks very robust, even given the difficult budget season we had. So I'm very delighted and hopeful for next year. And then just one other quick thing. As of now, we still have 5, which is all that we're expected to graduate, all 5 Haldane Academy seniors who are going to walk across that stage in about a month. So very excited about that as well.
Great. Thank you. Any communication from the public? I hope. Okay, moving on to consent agenda minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Consent agenda financial. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda personnel. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
I'd like to recommend that we table the discussion for items 2 and 3. I'm not sure I understand them at the moment. I mean, that's me.
What I recommended was maybe we could, since we're going to have time here, could we, after we're done, maybe have a quick executive session for you to explain, and then we can come back
Do we
out?
need to do these tonight? Is there a need to do it tonight? Or can it wait till the next meeting?
It could probably wait, but I think if we do have some time, it'd be worthwhile having a
have time.
conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So all but items 2 and 3, I guess we can vote on those. So all those in favor of items 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Unfinished business, there's nothing listed. However, we do have, just keep in mind those dates that we're going to have to figure out once everybody gets on board.
Wait, what date?
For the
retreat.
board
Oh,
board
retreats
retreat,
and
yeah,
the
yeah,
reorg
yeah.
meeting
Yeah.
and the,
August meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But just keep that in the back of our minds. And new business, we can't do until after.
Do you want to make a motion to go into executive session now? Do you think it'll take more than 15 minutes? Laura, you need to scoot down
need to go
close the polls.
Do you think we'll have enough time?
Sure.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for the reason of discussing the employment history of particular individuals.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, so we're back from executive session. I have closed the polls as well. We'll await those results. Ms. Judy Myers will come down and provide the results for us when they're ready. At this time, I'd like to move back into the consent agenda personnel items. We originally tabled items 2 and 3. At this point, I believe the board is ready to vote on those items. So may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so at this point, we'll wait for Judy Myers to come down and give us the vote. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm here to announce the results of the annual district meeting. I'll go through it. When you have any questions, please don't hesitate afterward. We'll go through it again. Proposition 1, school budget, passed 471, no 142. Proposition 2, student transportation vehicle, passed 446, yes, 166, no. Proposition 3, capital reserve, passed 488, yes, 124, no. The trustees election, John Hedlund, 337, Margaret Parr, 303. Do you want those? Okay. Sandy McElvey, 209, Laura O'Connell, 163, Keith Henderson, 116. And that's it.
Okay.
Okay. The last line. What's it say? We assume that the open trustees? Okay, we assume the open trustee positions on the Haldane Board of Education commencing July 1st of 2018. Okay, sorry. Any questions?
How many, do you know how many absentee ballots there were? Out of
Yeah, 28. right?
28 absentee ballots, and were there any write-ins?
Yes, there are 2 write-ins. Okay,
And the absentees have been opened, yeah.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, and thank you to all the
Congratulations.
trustees for your time. Candidates. Thank you. Although, Ann, we're still conducting business here. Ann?
Thank you. The recommended action is that the Board of Education accepts the results of the annual district meeting, budget vote, and trustee vote for Tuesday, May 15, 2018, as presented.
May I have a motion?
Motion? Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry. Are we, oh, yes. Is there any additional communication from the public at this time?
Should we give an official
Official-
congratulations
Yes,
to John Hedlund
congratulations,
and
John
Margaret
and
Parr?
Margaret. Appreciate it.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Okay, sorry, things are all kind of everywhere. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.